Would you guys help me welcome Andy back to the stage?
Oh, it's so hot.
Good?
Yeah, I just can't see. Like all the sweat's running my eyes, and I'm like, that's common though. You guys see me sweat all the time. It's very vulnerable.
I know that just from myself, and I think I could probably speak for everybody here. Thanks for letting us be part of tonight.
Thank you guys. This is awesome. I really appreciate it.
I know if you're like me, there's kind of been this like, and not to pick any, finally. And so thank you for doing this, man. This is awesome.
Thank you.
I know that you wanted to share some of your heart and just about your life. Some of these people know you. Most of them do, I think. But
yeah, I mean, I think first, a lot of you are joining. Like, I think it's really easy to come in and and see the thing and see the name and stuff but there were so many people that went behind this album. There were so many people that partnered with me. There's so many people that financially partnered with me, and my amazing wife, I think, is just. You're just the best thing God created. But I think that it's been an amazing process, and I've written a lot of these things over the last 4 years, and I think for so long I was just wanting it, and just like I didn't understand why it couldn't happen, and I just didn't feel released to do it. And I felt like over the last, we're almost like a year to the date of where we started kind of raising some of the financial support, and I've learned so much through this process, especially how much money it costs to actually make an album. But I mean, it's just been an amazing, amazing journey, amazing thing. But for those of you who maybe don't know me, I'm Andy, and I'm the director of worship here at Water of Life, and I've been here for 10 years. Danny, yeah, I don't know where it went, but Danny actually hired me when I was in Australia. I was living in Australia for a while, and Danny called me and asked me to help open the Edge venue over there. And so I came on as an intern and just kind of fell in love with it. I fell in love with worship. I've been doing worship since I was like 16. And Dave McDaniel, some of you know, he gave me the chance. I still remember my first worship set and how awful it was, how painful it was, and yeah, I mean, I started leading worship for a high school group, and once I went to Australia and I lived there for a while, I was leading worship every day, and really just developed this heart and this love to give something back to God. I think at the end of the day, it's like worship's really, He created everything else. Everything else that we use, we do, we breathe, we think, He's given us. Worship is the only thing that we get to give back to Him. And I think it's like at the end of the day, whether it's musical worship or not, I'm not saying that this is the only form, but you spending time with Him, you interacting with Him, you coming close to Him and telling Him how much you love Him, all that's worship, and that's the idea of you coming close to Him and feeling His heart and hearing His heart. And it's just, there's nothing better than that. And there's no bigger privilege to be able to lead people in that, to be able to sit here and watch you connect with Him. I don't care if you connect with me or not, because I'm not going to do anything for you. I don't have anything to offer you. And at the end of the day, if I can make some place or help be a little bit of a part of a place where you get to interact with Him, then that's what it is. And I think for me, it's just like, it is such an honor and it's such a privilege to, I think, really be what this journey's been about. What this thing has been my response back to Him, what He's done in my life over the last 4 years. If I had made this album 4 years ago, I think it would have looked totally different. And what He's done in my heart over the last 4 years has just been amazing. And it's nothing I've done. It's just completely Him.
So there's something about the last 4 years that really shaped what we're listening to tonight and what people take home with them tonight. What was it about the last 4 years that really shaped that?
Well, I think like I said, I never felt like released to do it. I had a lot of people asking me, why aren't you doing an album? Why don't you do this? And there was something about it. It's like, I'm not ready. And I'm like a total perfectionist too in this area. So I was like, well, the songs aren't perfect yet. So I got to, take another lap and I'll come back, but that was part of it. But part of it, I was just like, I just don't feel ready yet. I don't know if that's And over the last 4 years, God's just done something amazing. I grew up in the church, this church actually, and a lot of you have seen me grow up, so that's been fun. But
I feel like we share that in common.
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So,
Love you anyway.
So a lot of us, it's been a thing of, and I had a great home and a great everything, but those of you who grew up in the church, I think you can maybe identify with this on some level, that it's like there is a point where it needs to become yours. There is a point where it needs to stop being be good, don't be bad, and it needs to become, no, I do this because I love you. And I think that's what the last 4 years have been. I think it's been something of, when he says in John, if you love me, keep my commandments. I think sometimes we just skip right over the if you love me and go right to keep my commandments. And for me, it was something that there was something in my heart that just wasn't settled there. I wasn't okay just to stay there. There had to be something more than that. And I think over the last 4 years, a lot of people have asked like what the title of the album means, of Gray and Other Colors. And Gray for me, it means grace. And it means the idea that, kind of what I shared up there, that on my best day and on my worst day, his love is constant and perfect. And that he doesn't love you when you're as you should be, because you'll never be as you should be. And his love is there, and it's constant, it's waiting. And he's waiting there for more than you to participate in religion. It's waiting for more than for you to come to church or to do the right thing or say the right thing. And it's there because he's just infatuated with you. And he's just madly in love with you. And I think over the last 4 years, it's hard to grasp that, I think, without grace. When every single time you mess up, you run and you hide and you run away from him. And it's just like, I think a lot of us do that. I know that I would come into church a lot of times and I'd be on stage a lot of times, be like, man, I can't believe I did that this weekend. And, and what am I doing up here? And, and all this stuff. And it was just, for me, it was learning that his love's just so much bigger than that. And that he wants the best for you. And I'm not advocating against morality or anything like that. I think morality at the end of the day, I think is for our benefit. But it's just so much bigger. He's just so madly in love with you. So him implementing grace into my life, showing me that he loves me, showing me that he cares for me. And then the idea of, in Other Colors, this is a really weird story, but God speaks to me a lot of times through pictures, I think, because I'm most of the time just too dumb to understand maybe what he's saying. But he's like, let me draw it for you, I was sitting down one day and I was praying, and I've wrestled my whole life, and just being honest, I've wrestled a lot with finding my significance and where I fit in and what I identify with, and my significance outside of being up here. And so for me, I think it was something of that. It was really easy to hold a mirror up to everyone else and say, tell me what I am. Tell me if you like me. Tell me if you approve of me right now. And I would live my whole life trying to make everyone get to that spot where they approved and they said, great job, you're amazing, yeah, all this stuff and everything. I'm sure some of you do this and you identify with this, and the idea of that, just like, it doesn't matter what they do and it doesn't matter what they say, it just never feels good enough and it just never feels right. And so anyway, I was praying one day and I felt like God gave me this image of, I was standing there and I had a head, but no body. And instead of a body, I had an easel. And I looked around and everyone else had easels, and all the kind of significant people in my life were standing around, and they had these beautiful Van Gogh, Mona Lisa paintings all over them. And I looked at them and I was like, man, I wish I could have that. And so I'd pick up a paintbrush and I'd try to start drawing what was on their easel. And I'd try to say, no, that's me. I want to be that too. And I felt like God said to me, he's just all like, come to me. He's like, I've already drawn on you. I've already identified you. I've already counted you as significant. Come to me. Let me draw on you. Stop drawing on yourself. Stop trying to write your own identity. Try to stop letting them write it for you, but let me do it. Come to me. And so it was this very pivotal moment of going, I felt like he said to me, and you know what? You're going to have colors that they can't even see sometimes. But you have colors that I can see. And so this idea of gray and other colors is grace with what I feel like he's given me and who I am. And yeah, I mean, I think that it's still a battle, and it's still a daily battle, but it's really, I think, given me perspective on it, I think.
That's good. Yeah. Like I shared before Andy came out, one of the things that I know is his heart is and desires for you to literally be able to feel his heart tonight before you go home. And one of the things that I think might be important for some of you who may have been dragged by somebody or coerced into coming, or maybe you come to Pure and this is just kind of you showed up tonight, and maybe you don't really understand, or maybe you do understand what this idea of grace is, but maybe you need to hear this too, because as we talked, there was something that captured my heart, and I shared it with Andy, and we felt like it would maybe speak to some of you tonight, and that's just this, that in the moment when you were the messiest version of you, that might be right now, I don't know who you are or where you are, but in the moment when you were the messiest version of you didn't need a rule, and you didn't need somebody to come tell you what you did wrong. You just needed somebody to take you for who you were at that moment and that time. And I hope that you guys can catch that tonight, and I know that it's part of Andy's heart and part of his story too, is that God saw him in his messiest moment, and his friends and his family, and just said, it's okay to be you. And I hope some of you could hear that tonight. There's a passage for Andy that drove that fueled some of this, and it's Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. I'll just read it really quick, and then he can share a little bit what it means for him. So then, since we have such a high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we believe. This high priest of ours understands our weakness, for he faced all the same things and all the same tests that we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we receive his mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most.
I was sitting on a beach in the Solomon Islands, and I was reading that, and it was like, I was on a DTS, and they were teaching, like, find a life verse, get a life verse. And so I was out there, I was out on the beach, and I was praying. I was like, God, I need that life verse, And I was sitting out there, and I was reading through Hebrews, and I got to Hebrews 4:4. And isn't it amazing? I think it's incredible that God does things 7 years, even before I went through this idea of grace. But it's like he's like softening, and he's paving the way. And I felt like he gave me this very profound verse of saying, we have this amazing, amazing God. And I love the line that it says, but he understands our weaknesses. He understands our humanity. He understands that we're not perfect. And then I love the line that follows up, and it says, so let us come boldly. To me, that's amazing. It's just, don't come cowering. Don't come, groveling. Come boldly, because he can look past it. He can see past it and see you. He can see your heart. He can see, and you're so much more valuable than your sin. You're so much bigger than your sin. And it's amazing that we have this God who does not need to do that. We have this God that it's so incredible. And so for me, I look at this and go, how can I respond? Okay, how can I come boldly then? And I've shared this story at Pure a few times, and I actually didn't check with you guys if it was okay, so I hope it is. But my nephew was having a birthday party one year, and he invited all his friends, and all his friends were coming, and my sister-in-law throws these amazing parties. I'll give you her number if you're interested afterwards, but she throws these amazing parties and stuff, and so they were handing out all these invitations, and my nephew Carter went to one of his friends, and he handed his invitation, and the kid said back to him, he's all like, I can't afford a present. I don't know if I can come because I can't bring you anything. And my sister-in-law and Carter were like, no, just come. We just want you there. And so a few days go by, and the kid shows up, and he has this present that he obviously wrapped. And he has this present, and Carter's opening all his toys and all these amazing things and all these things that are just, awesome, and he's all pumped and everything. And he gets to this kid's present, and he opens the present, and the poor kid had given him his old toys. And I think, man, there's no better picture of worship than that, I think. I think there's no better picture of not having anything to give, but just giving what you have. That when we walk in the room and we feel like we just don't amount to anything, that's okay. He just wants you. I don't think it mattered one iota to Carter what he gave. It was just the idea that he was there and he gave and he was vulnerable. And I think that's the most beautiful story of worship, because I think it's something of, every time I kind of come to the platform now, I think about that, and I think about this idea of just, I'm a mess, but here I am, so yeah.
That's good. I know that the prodigal son carries a lot of significance for you too, and that part of your journey brought you to a place where you recognize just his infatuation and affection for you. What was that about?
Again, growing up in the church, I don't know how many of you identify this, but growing up in the church was, you got the flannel boards with the older brother and then the younger brother that marches off, and the father, and then the nice, country style home on the flannel board and everything. And as a kid who grew up in church, I was like, well, I'm the older brother. All these sinners out there, I don't do, and it took me back to the idea of like the easel and the painting on myself, and the idea that he was like, you are the younger brother. He's like, because you leave my house every single time you go and look for significance anywhere outside of me. And anytime you go and you look for something that needs to be provided by God, you're leaving the house. And I think for me, it was something that was so profound. And those moments where it's like, I need to repent, but it's not like the turn or burn repent. It's not like, it's that honest like conviction that isn't associated with guilt, but it's just like, I don't want that anymore. And I want to give you that, I want to lay that down because I'm sick of carrying it. And it was this moment that I sat down and I actually wrote the song that I'm going to do next. And the song that I'm going to do next is honestly probably my favorite, because it was a moment of, I don't write songs quickly usually. They usually take me a long time. And I sat and I wrote it out in one thing. And I didn't even have a guitar. I wrote the lyrics out to it. And it was something that it was just something that, okay, I want to come back, and I want to come back to the Father's house. And I read this book by Henry Nouwen. I read a lot of Brennan Manning, Henry Nouwen. I was reading this book called Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen, and he talks about this Rembrandt painting of the prodigal son. It's an amazing book. You should go buy it. It's incredible. But not the painting, the book. But he went and he went and he stared at this painting and the idea of what the painting, all the symbolism in the painting and everything, and how it really brought me into this place of, wanting to come home, and the idea that you can imagine the younger brother walking home and just rehearsing his apology in his head, just going through like, I'm so sorry, I'm nothing, I'm awful, all this stuff, and getting there and not even being able to speak because the Father's out there to meet him, and he's out there to wrap his arms around him, and he can't even get a word out of his apology because the Father's just so there and happy he's home. And for me, it was just, it's learning how to go to God with it and being greeted with just such grace.
In just a second, we're going to go back into worship, and Andy and his team are going to come back. But one of the things that we had hoped as we kind of wrap our time here up front with you guys together, as we wrap it to kind of bring it to a close, is that we wanted to stop for a second and invite you to re-enter worship with us tonight, but just being reflective. And just a moment, we're going to give you a chance to do just that, and then remain reflective as you go back into You Are Home. Would you join us in doing that?